Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are Up7 and we are live. Welcome to our free virtual EDU Summit. And the theme for today is really interesting one, as always, but this one is really special, and it's video creation. I would like to also welcome my colleagues, our speakers for today. So hi, James. Hi, Sethi. Hi, Bogdan. Hi, Kay. How are you all doing?
Fantastic. Thanks, Veronica.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I will just add this presentation. So before we get started, I would like to mention that we are Google Workspace for Education Plus partner. So in case of any interest, feel free to contact us, especially James or myself. You can see the link, so feel free to submit your request. Maybe James, would you like to mention any information about the Google Workspace, any details, any highlights?
Yeah, so Education Plus is the premium feature set of Google Education Fundamentals. Education Fundamentals is free for schools and will always be free for schools. Education Plus brings a lot of premium features, both for teachers, for example, the breakout rooms, or for admins as well, in terms of extra security center features and many more things as well. We can do a 60-day free trial for 50 users at any time. So if you'd like to learn any more about that, sign up for a trial and we can share the features with you.
Thank you, James. I would like to also thanks to Acer. Acer is our great partner. Thanks to Acer, we are able to run these summits for free. So thanks a lot. We are also Chromebooks users, Chromebooks fans, and we really highly recommend them. Also, this is something interesting what James can follow up. So James, I will could you continue, please?
Yeah, with the number of schools obviously using technology now in education, we're collecting more and more data. So beginning in January 22, we are going to be launching a brand new course for schools, for teachers, for school leaders about, a lot of content about data literacy, about understanding what data you're collecting, doing a data review, possibly looking at protection of your data as well. But then beyond that, thinking about the story that your data is there to tell. Part of that would be using Data Studio, but lots of other things we're going to dive quite deep into. And that'll be beginning in January 22. If you've got any questions about that, drop me an email or tag us on Twitter. We'll be happy to share that.
Thank you. And the next one is also for you, James. And this is the certification.
Yeah, we work with ISTE to provide the ISTE certification. We have a big cohort coming up in October. Again, please reach out with any questions about that.
Thank you. Also, I realized I forgot to introduce myself, so sorry for that. My name is Veronica. I am based in the Czech Republic. I am in charge of Europe, so please, if you have any interest, any requests, any questions, any idea for Europe, so contact me, please. And also, I would like to introduce you my awesome colleague, James Soya, who is based in Bangkok. He's responsible for Asia, Middle East, Africa, just really a large region. So if you have any requests, any questions, feel free to contact him. So now I will give you space because James, Sethi, Kay, and Bogdan will start a really interesting topic. It's going to be round discussion table. So James, I will leave it up to you. I will be behind. So if you need any assistance, feel free to let me know. Thank you and enjoy it.
Thanks, Veronica. So let's do a formal intro here. I'm going to leave the two gentlemen to last here just for a moment. Gay, we've all known Gay for many years now. I think going back to 2013 or 2014, we joined the same events together, Google events, obviously. Since then, Gay has become a Google trainer, a Google innovator, and then recently she has taken up a new position. Gay, where are you working now, Gay?
Yeah, I work in the education lead at Google. Yeah. on
Yeah.
education team. Yes.
So on the education
Based
team
in
for Thailand, which is very
Yeah.
exciting because Thailand didn't have an education team. So you are the first education team member for Thailand, correct?
Yeah, in this recent year. Yeah.
Well,
Used to have, this recent year.
I guess, we had what, maybe 5 years ago, I think, or maybe a little bit longer.
That's right. Yeah.
So Gay, thank you very much for joining us. And you ran a very big project last year, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So we'll spend a bit more time talking about that. Sethi, I think everybody already knows very well, infamous on YouTube. Sethi, quick intro from yourself.
So I do lots of tutorials. I make lots of videos to try and make educational technology as easy for teachers as possible. I also teach at a local international school based in Bangkok. And yeah, that's it.
And of course, Sethi makes videos with you, with that apps events, and of course your channel, Sethi, which is?
My channel is Flipped Classroom Tutorials, and then the apps events channel, which you are on right now. So remember to subscribe if you want to see any of the videos that we post.
Thank you, Sethi. And last but not least, Bogdan, you are joining us from Czech Republic. And I think we first met in the Middle East. I'm going to say Qatar is my guess.
Yes,
exactly.
Right, in Doha a few years ago. So that's when we first met in person, but we were already working together through apps events. So just quick intro. I am based in Prague, originally from Romania, but now I'm out of the classroom. I was a science teacher. Now I'm doing mainly Google trainings and ESTED trainings. So I'm a certified ESTED trainer as well. And this is my main focus in this period as well. I'm also delivering trainings now mainly online. Before we were traveling a lot, but things changed things changed after COVID, so we had to adapt. And this is where videos were really useful for me as well in the past year and a half, more than ever.
Perfect segue. Thank you, Bogdan. So yeah, we're going to be talking about video today. After, we're going to have a quick chat about video, and then in about 20 or 30 minutes, Sethi and Bogdan will share some of their tips, tricks, and strategies for using video in learning. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about video. So Bogdan, you mentioned it. The situation which we're going through right now is now 18 months in. Bogdan, how do you see video has changed education?
Well, I mean, I was a big fan of video even before COVID. I was using it with my students as well for projects. Even though I was teaching science, some of my projects were, okay, create a video about the forces in your favorite sport, for example. So I was also using video as a form of assessment for my students, and it was more of a project-based approach. But talking about looking back at the past year and a half, especially for distance learning and me working with teachers, just having the possibility for those small, simple tutorials for teachers that they could use for themselves, or they could share with their students, showing them how to actually use the technology, how to adapt, how to change things. That was a lifesaver in many cases, because you had so many teachers struggling with basic things, and parents as well who had nowhere to find the information. I mean, you could Google it, but it's different when you have a video created by a teacher, a trainer they know what they are talking about. They know how to structure the information. They know how to point you in the right direction. So this is from the teacher/trainer perspective.
Yeah, and just sort of linking up to that, you were talking about the trainer perspective. So I mentioned before that Gay had been running a project in 2020. It was with the MOE, wasn't it, Gay? Would you mind introducing the project that you ran?
So back in 2000, last year, so I get a chance to make a video to it's COVID response, for teachers in Thailand. I think it's in May last year. So MOE, Ministry of Education, would like to find a way how to educate the teachers in Thailand using the tools Classroom or I think we did 18 video. I'm doing the one. Actually, you didn't know that I did it 2 times. First time I speak it so fast. Okay, Google Classroom, I will try to do it with 20 minutes and then submit to the MOE, and then got the feedback that is so fast. So it's just like, oh, my Google Assistant working. Yeah. So the I think at that time I do it about like 6-7 videos, like classroom about 2 video and speak fast. So I think that is like to make it short, and then they can pause whenever they want. But when we discuss with the math people, like a lot of teachers, like they would like to have like very slow, and then like make it one-on-one. Like for example, like new like teacher who never use like actually they don't like use like technology much. So I did like, okay, open the Chrome browser and then go to the tab above and then pause, and that's like how I think like the feedback from teacher, like at that time I think we got a lot of view, like millions view, like live video on Facebook and YouTube, and then they come back and a lot of good feedback because of like computer teacher in the school no need to do a webinar for their own, because they think, hey, let's go to watch this video instead, and then you can repeat it. Because it's, for example, if like you want them to go to the new tab, I think I also need to say that new tab is above here, and at that time I use Camtasia, and it have the highlight in yellow, so like, and then pause, and this is how very beginner like it. Yeah. That's how I got the good feedback from the teachers. And each video lasts for 45 minutes. And for example, I teach Google Classroom, I use 3 videos. Google Meet, I use 2 videos. Like Google Meet, I have like 45 minutes 2 times, and even like teach them how to do it on mobile and one by one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the big challenges there, Gay, was, you mentioned it already, I think the range of skills with Thai teachers is very great.
Yeah.
Some teachers are very, very advanced.
Yeah, that's right.
I think there are some schools which haven't supported their teachers for training yet. So how did you find training like that? Such a big range of teachers in video. How did you find that? What was the sort of feedback from, you talked about those newer teachers that hadn't used technology before. Were they the younger teachers or were they the older teachers?
I think it's we always think that the older teacher maybe that's lane. Most of them are like older teachers, but I think it's kind of like mixed as well. Yeah, some maybe use like technology but not really focused using technology for the classroom. Never try to use that. Is also new for them. Yeah, I think the good part, like because we have mixed, right? And that's my concern at the first time, because I think that, hey, many people already know Google Classroom, because like this is only what I'm thinking, but actually not. Actually, it's not true. So it's like people who already know how to use it will not watch this video. So it's like this is very for beginner. Yeah, that's how it's worked at the first time, and then. What I did later is like kind of like webinar with the Google Educator group, like to just focus on like specific area about, for example, if they want to use the storytelling with the Google slide, like the kind of pedagogy thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned 1 million views, or more than 1 million views, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like live event with I think it's the first time MOE did it. So it's like MOE bring all the teacher in Thailand come to watch, and then like it depends. I think like the good thing that they stay long, because it's like 3 hours per day and it lasts for I think 9 days. Yeah. So I think a good point that like they stay longer because they catch up what like they can start doing, turn on the computer and do one by one, and then the MOE like upload again without like again on the YouTube. Yeah. I mean, like, because in the between they have some advertisement, like announcement something. So that's why MOE do it again, like upload only pure my video. Yeah. And teachers still come back to watch. And I'm really happy that I work even 2 times and that, but it's good feedback. Yeah.
Well, I think in APAC, because this project was run across APAC, I think Taiwan, Philippines, Singapore, Korea, they all had these projects. But I think Thailand had the most number of views. Either Thailand or Philippines were right at the top.
I'm not. I didn't know that at that time. Yeah, but just.
Yeah, but I think it is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. So Sethi, Gaze talked a little bit about the long form videos. I was going to ask you, Sethi, pivoting to you because you do probably more video content than anyone here. Quick question before we get into my real question about creation. What happened at the start of the pandemic to your subscription numbers, Sethi?
I think the biggest change I saw was a real uptake in the beginner videos. So the videos that were targeted at beginners. So I tried to have a range of different videos. Some are a bit more targeted towards beginners and they're a bit slower. They were very short form. Other videos are more targeted at people, for example, like us, that are discovering new tools. And so obviously I go a bit faster and I rush through certain things. Making a reference to what Kay was saying about the new tab, I'll say, right, open up 2 tabs and then we're going to go there. Whereas in a beginner's video, we say, if you look at the top of your browser, you will notice there's a plus icon. That plus icon opens a new tab. Let's open a new tab. So it's sort of, I noticed an uptick in those videos, the videos that were covering some of the basics that I think many leaders and school leaders assumed their teachers already knew. And I think that was something that I noticed at the start of the pandemic, was that actually there was a huge gap in knowledge for some teachers, and they may not have always been comfortable sharing that with their colleagues or with management, or making it vocal that there is a need there. And so when they then were told, okay, you now have to teach online, you have to use Google Meet, you have to use Google Classroom, I think some teachers realized, uh-oh, I wasn't paying attention here. What do I do now? And so I saw those videos really blow up. And then obviously when some schools pivoted towards Google products, others towards Zoom, others towards other products, so you could really see different demographics watching different videos. So you could really sort of see a trend of everyone was jumping on the Zoom train, and then that dropped, and then everyone was jumping on Google Meet, and then that dropped a little bit, and you can sort of see waves. And I found that so interesting.
So I know that your subscriber count today is huge, Sethi. Before the pandemic, how many subscribers did you have on YouTube?
About 35,000.
And how many do you have today?
248. So that really does show the reach video can have. So I think before it was more teachers looking for an answer to a problem. Whereas now I think that number really represents sort of more everyday professional development that teachers are looking for, as well as answers to problems.
So my real question about creation, Sethi, is when you're designing a video for your channel for teachers, what are you thinking about? So what are the top 3 things you're thinking about when you go into storyboarding?
Yeah, it's always a very difficult sort of journey, because obviously if you go too slow, then you lose half your audience because they already know the things you're talking about. When you're going too fast, then some people will say, hold on a minute, this is not for me, this is way too fast. And so I always try to keep it interesting enough to have people watch, to keep them watching. And I try to avoid all the fluff, the in-between fluff, maybe have a look at this and maybe done that. Just cut that out, keep it moving. It's a video, they can pause it. And I think that's one of the real benefits, and also one of the biggest differences between, for example, what we're doing now, which is a live stream. People are watching live. They cannot pause this. Whereas the training, in-person training, they cannot pause you. A video, you can move and you can keep moving because people can pause it. They can re-watch a section. They can just check the description. If you're mentioning a link, okay, pause the video, go down, and they find the link in the description. Whereas when you are doing in-person training or a live webinar, you have to give people a chance to actually type in that web address, type in that email address, type in all those logins. And so it's a very different format. And I think that's one of the things I try to do whenever I do work on my videos, is I try to think very carefully about what's the actual reason I'm making this video.
How does that process differ? So we've talked about your videos on your channel, which the audience is obviously for teachers. How does that process differ when you're designing video for students?
Funnily enough, it's very similar, but the outcome is very different. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later during my presentation. But what I try to do is I always keep the audience in mind. And so say I'm creating a video on a certain topic, say computer science, we have a lesson and the lesson talks about variables. Okay, we're going to make a video about variables. I can open up a program and I can just talk about the code that's on screen. Or I can run it in a format that they understand. Say I'm talking about 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. What's the video format they understand? Live streamers. They understand live streaming. They watch Twitch for hours. They understand that. That's a format they understand. So what do? I make my video like that. I have a lower third. I have sound effects. I have a little notification in the top right. Every time I declare a variable, that notification goes off. And that keeps their attention. So it almost becomes, the video has to be right for them. The same way that now we're running this webinar. If we were running a webinar for, say, a group of people that have never used a computer before, we would run this in a very different way. Same thing for maybe 14-year-olds. If 14-year-olds were watching this, we would not be having a round table discussion. So that's how I try to create the content for the students. A lot more sound effects, not too many because you don't want to distract too much. You'll see some visual effects. For example, we were running a key values activity, which was online, and it was about an online game, Werewolf, which is a bit, a creepy game. So I put some filters on, and there was sort of like eerie music in the background, and it really adds to the way that video comes across to your students. And again, this you can do this during live lessons as well. We have the tools are there. You can do this. You can feed that into a Google Meet, and you can even do it during live lessons.
Thanks, Sethi. And it's interesting just thinking about, you're talking about the sounds and the graphics in video. If you spend any time watching Thai YouTube, so Thai YouTube stars and their videos, and YouTube is massive in Thailand. Gay, do you know any statistics about how big YouTube is in Thailand?
I don't have the statistic, but I think like what I know, I don't think that I have the statistic of YouTube in Thailand, but it's the big market for Thailand, and also have more like when Sethi talking about the chain of like the, for example, subscriber. Yeah, it's happened to me as well. I'm like not that much, but I think like people try to keep update every day, like learning every day about PD and searching every day about the tools more than before. Because I think I do the channel for a long time, and education channel like this is have very low subscription, right? And then very low view, but it's like emerged a lot. Yeah, this day. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And outside of the education space, Thai YouTube channels are huge, aren't they?
Okay, let me just chip in here. I'm getting Thai recommendations, Thai YouTube video recommendations in Prague, even though I've never been to Thailand and I haven't watched any. So they are so big that the YouTube algorithm even recommends them to people in other parts of the world.
And just thinking about the creativity side, of course, there's a cultural aspect to it as well. And if you watch, even the Thai GEG videos are very different to some of the other GEGs in the region. There's a very big cultural aspect to video creation, which we'll probably save that conversation for later, because I have another question I really want to touch upon, because Bogdan, you brought this up. And we've obviously talked about the teacher creating video, but perhaps we can sort of move on to students creating video and even using video for assessment. So Bogdan, maybe do you want to pick up that strand?
I mean, this is something I've mentioned it briefly earlier. I was doing that when I was still teaching. So I was a science teacher, apparently nothing to do with video, right? But it's all about finding those ways in which you can assess students, you engage them, you bring them into the whole activity. So one of my projects was, as I said, to build on that example and dig a bit deeper. We were studying about forces and motion, and the final project was create a video in which you explain the forces in your favorite sport. So students had total agency in terms of what sport they chose, how they've done their research, how they've organized their video. Would they record themselves and use that material for the video? Would they record their desktop? Would they use other video which they had permission to use? Because there's loads of layers that you can add into the discussion, from planning your work, so project management, a bit of project management. So you bring in new skills to this, to collaboration, because if they wanted to record themselves, of course, they needed help from their colleagues. Somebody was supposed to film them while they were slam dunking or whatever. To copyright and digital citizenship, because when we use images and other things from the internet, we need to talk about how we show the sources, how we give credit, Creative Commons, licenses, and so on and so forth. To then the actual video editing, where there's so much in terms of creativity. And of course, Sethi, I am sure will share more about the actual video creating process. But all of a sudden, something that could have been just an essay or a slide show about some forces turned into this massive project in which students, they did work on the research and on the science part, but they've worked on so many other skills at the same time. And we could turn it into a bigger project that went outside of the science classroom. And of course, I've collaborated with the drama teachers and with the other teachers in the school. So it sort of breaks those boundaries of the classical assessment. And this is just one example, of course. Back then, though, students could upload videos to their YouTube channels as well. And that changed recently. So this is also something that changed recently. And I think it's important to sort of touch upon. Because right now, students cannot have YouTube channels on their Google Workspace for Education account. So basically, if you're under 18, there are some new restrictions here.
Yeah, so just I think Bogdan stated it very clearly. So a few weeks ago, Google announced a new policy that students are not able to create video on their education accounts. Well, in fact, it was anybody underneath 18. It wasn't really specifically students, although obviously students are under 18. But yeah, it was anybody under 18. And it was a policy, it was a privacy update. I'm not going to put Gay on the spot about this. Don't worry, Gay, you don't need to talk for Google about this. But it was definitely a privacy update. Now, I can see that there is some disruption there because schools are used to having students create video. There are a few workarounds. Teachers could now publish video for them. But maybe, Sethi, what do you think? What do you see the impact on you? Because you are obviously teaching probably quite young learners. What age levels are you teaching, Sethi?
I K-12, so every year group. So I work with the very, very little ones all the way up to older students that are getting very close to that age where they are now allowed to have a channel. And so I think the biggest thing that happened was also that everyone who was not labeled with the correct age was automatically defaulted to under 18. And I think that created a lot of confusion. And so some teachers ended up losing their channels. Well, they haven't lost it yet, but there is a grace period, but they got that email. And so obviously there was a bit of panic. I do see where this is coming from. Very, very little ones. It has always been the teacher creating a channel, if they have a channel at all. As they get older, though, that's where they started creating their own channels. And I do feel that not having that being part of Google Workspace for Education makes sense. Now, on the other hand, we also had students creating projects for class assignments. That's now an area where we need to find an alternative. Now, there are alternatives. We can use Google Drive. We can use other services to host those videos. But the YouTube environment is no longer the place where you would send those students. Now, I can feel that this is a very, I mean, obviously, I don't know why Google has really done this. But I can see why. I know many schools are blocking YouTube. Many schools don't want to use YouTube. Why? Main reason, for safety, student safety, privacy. So it all started by, bringing a stricter, this is a video for kids, and then they no longer collect any data on those viewers. Okay, that was step one. Now step two is educational domains don't have channels. That makes sense. Comments are gone. If you are watching a video from a student account in a workspace for education domain, then you do not see the comments. I think that's great. That is perfect, because very often teachers are using videos, and those comments, that's probably the worst place, because not all channels go through their comments. And once they sort of reach a certain level, those comments you can get hundreds, if not thousands of comments a day. So to manually go through that for some channels is not realistic, and then those students are exposed to that. So I can see why they're doing it.
It's very difficult because we're demanding greater privacy from Google and Microsoft and Apple and every other technology company. We're demanding this. And yet when these big companies make these big decisions which affect, well, hundreds of millions of users around the world, obviously there's a great impact. But I think there was a bit of confusion as well, because it only affected student accounts. But because a Google administrator needed to update something in the domain, I think regular teacher accounts got caught up in that. But it certainly doesn't mean that YouTube is blocked. It's not, unless your domain administrator decides to do that. YouTube is still quite open. There's actually a case about 2 years ago, we had a student that had been graduated for a couple of years. Their account was suspended, but they had a video under their account on YouTube that they wanted removing. And so we had to go back in, resolve the issue with the video and so on. So actually, turning off this creation long-term will make it easier for us to manage those accounts.
I actually agree with that, because it's similar to whenever we run educator boot camps. One of the tips that we tend to give is, if your school allows it, get your certification on your personal account, not on your school account, because if you move schools next year, that certification stays with your previous school. And it's the same with YouTube channels. If our students are creating all these amazing things and it's linked to that school account, once they leave the school, they lose all their hard work. And so in that sense, I do feel that makes perfect sense to not have it tied to the school, as in their identity as a student, but have it tied to them as a person.
Well, I think that has, in fact, we've just gone over time a little bit. Thank you very much. Gay, do you have anything to add about the changes on YouTube? Have Thai teachers been talking about this at all in Thailand?
I think like some teachers get affected, but I think it's not very much. Yeah. On that part, I think like many of them ask students to upload on Google Drive so far. Yeah. And private account, because like Google for Education just use a lot like these 2 years, right? Not many like student creation much on their Google Workspace. Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, but I think like the topic that you mentioned about like GEG in Thailand and thing, yeah, I think it's good to discuss and maybe invite GEG in Thailand to join the session with you next time if have a chance. Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. Thank you, Gay. Well, I know, Gay, you're very busy training probably every teacher in Thailand again over the last few weeks. Congratulations on your new role. I know you're very busy, Gay, so we're going to let you go now. Thank you very much for joining us. In a moment, we'll have Sethi running a session, and Bogdan, you're going to follow up in about 30 minutes. So, Gay, thank you very much again.
Thank you, Gay.
Sethi, do you want to... Sethi, do you want to get ready for your session? Are you ready? Do you want to introduce what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm literally just going to discuss using video in the classroom as both a teacher and also what students can do. So I actually want to jump back into the comments just quickly because I see some comments there, maybe using Google Sites, using these workarounds. And I think that is a great workaround. If you use Google Sites, you can embed video. That is one thing you can do. And again, Google Drive uses the same engine as YouTube. And so if you host a video on Google Drive, it will also have the same horsepower that a YouTube video would have without actually being hosted on YouTube. So when I completely understand if you've got 80 kids uploading their videos, I see it in the comments, that's not going to happen. You're not going to sit there, upload 80 videos. You can create a shared folder, or you create a form with an upload function in there, and then they can upload their videos. It's all put into a folder. So that is still an option if you're trying to get those 80 videos onto your Google Drive. I just wanted to quickly follow up on that.
Okay, Sethi, I'll let you get your desktop ready, your screen share ready. So you're going to be obviously talking about video creation. Looks like you're ready to go.
I'm ready.
Okay, I think Bogdan and I will just go off screen and let you go ahead.
No problem. If you want to come back in the last 5 minutes, maybe we can jump into the comment section, answer some questions. If I see any other questions sort of jump out during the session, I will do my very best to answer them. For anyone watching live, if I'm not picking up your question or if I haven't seen it, just bear with me. I'll do my best to keep an eye on that chat, and I'll try to answer them. Brilliant. So I'm going to have a little look at video creation. And what I wanted to talk about is really how I create my videos, what sort of my process is, how long that takes, and what the different steps are. Now, because I've done this for a little while already, I've sort of noticed a lot of the mistakes I made in the beginning. And hopefully this session will help you to not make those same mistakes that I made at the start when I was just getting started and making videos, and obviously also making videos to share with our students. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that I'm going to spend about 15 minutes talking about the video creation in general. And then another 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to show you a couple of tools that you can start using this week. So they're very basic things, very basic tools that you can have a play with. I've tried to cover every operating system. So I know we have some users here that are on Mac, Windows, Chrome OS. So I've done my best to try and cover all three. But reality being what it is, each of these operating systems have their own tools, and what works with one operating system may not work on the other. But I'll try my best to always make sure that I mention what works and what doesn't. Now, the first question I always ask myself whenever I'm trying to create a new video, or if I plan to create a video, is I ask myself the question, why? Why am I choosing video? Is this better off being an assignment? Is this better as a document? Maybe a visual, as in a graphic? Why did I decide that video would be the perfect delivery format for this content? And that is the biggest question, I think, is why. Why do we need video? Why do we use video? And then we can move on from that. Now, once you've answered that question, why, then we get to that second question, which we actually talked about in our roundtable discussion, and that is the who. So who is your target audience? Because a video for a 4-year-old is a very, very different video from a video for a 14-year-old. You're not going to be sat there in front of your camera with hand puppets and sound effects and very visual, bright colors as your background when you're creating a video for a 14-year-old. Now, I know that all sounds logical, but trust me, there are a lot of videos out there, and I've made some horrible videos where I completely forgot who the target audience was. That can also mean that maybe you're going too fast. Maybe you're going too slow. Make sure that you really understand who's watching your videos. For example, some of the videos on my channel, they are very fast paced because they are for teachers that are using EdTech. They are for those EdTech leaders in schools. they will be very fast paced. Other beginner videos, or for example, the videos on the Apps Events channel, they're slower. Why? Because we're covering more of the basics, and also that's the audience. Talking about students, again, think carefully about the classes. What works for one class may not work for the other class because they're all different. And if you see that something worked, great, do it again and then try something different. Don't milk it. Don't overuse that same thing. For example, if you're doing a video and you have sort of interactive elements similar to a Kahoot quiz, don't create 4 or 5 videos just like that. Try to bring a bit of variety to the videos that you choose. Now, once you've done that, we're going to move on to what? What am I creating? Am I creating a video where you are sat in front of a camera, almost like a vlogger, a bit of a vlog style video? Or is it a screencast? Are you recording your screen, demonstrating something, and maybe there is a talking head in the corner? Do you need to have a background? Well, then maybe you can get that background prepared. Just make little notes of what you are trying to do. If it's a demonstration video, what needs to be within that frame and what can be removed? If you have any distractions, can you get rid of those distractions? And that is something you can also tell your students. So whenever they're creating their little projects, have them think about what will be your background. What does it look like? Are you using a virtual background? And if you are using a virtual background, which one? Is it animated? Is it a static virtual background? Or is it just a blur? Those are all things that can really impact the actual lesson. Again, referring to younger students, animated backgrounds can be very distracting. Too many visual elements moving around can distract the students. When you're talking about older students, maybe they just want to see a ticker down the bottom of your screen show up with a little bit of information there, but you don't have to highlight that. You don't have to say that in the video. And then once you have sort of answered those questions, so we're talking about why are you creating the video? Who are you creating that video for? And then what are you creating? Once you have the answer to those 3 questions, then you can start thinking about how am I going to get started? What camera am I going to use? Do I use my webcam? Do I use my phone's camera? Because many of us carry an amazing camera in our pockets. That phone is such a powerful device that that's the best camera you can get started with if you're trying to create videos. If you have an iPad, use that camera. If you have a Chromebook, many can be flipped around and you can use the webcam from that Chromebook. So those are the devices you're going to be using. And then there's a couple of sort of small little tricks that you can use to really impact the quality of your videos. Now, there are 2 big parts to video. One is the visuals, 2, the audio. Now, many will watch a terrible video as long as the audio is good. However, if you have amazing visuals and it looks professional, but the audio sounds horrible, most of your students will stop watching that video. And so my advice would be, if you are at all investing, invest in the audio first. Get a cheap microphone. It doesn't have to be much, just a very cheap little microphone, but get that microphone and that will already make your video 100 times better. Now, don't be afraid of making mistakes. You can always cut that out in editing later, or you just leave them in, because that's another thing that your students will love once they start watching your videos is when you make some little mistakes, or maybe someone walks in behind you, or there is something that sort of happens unexpectedly, maybe a pet that jumps up, leave it in. It shows your students that you're real. It doesn't have to be overproduced. And so that would be my advice when it comes to creating that video. Don't be afraid of making mistakes and invest in the audio first. The visuals are less important than the audio. And I know that sounds strange because we're talking about video editing and video production, but the audio has to come first. There is a reason why podcasts are so popular. It's because they have good audio. And so once you have that, a good microphone, I must say the latest MacBook Pros and your phones, and they have good microphones, but just plugging one in will make a big difference. Then the visuals, cameras. When you use your phone as your main camera, the only thing you need to add to make the image pop is light. You need as much light on your subject or on yourself as possible. That will turn a terrible looking camera into a good looking camera. Not going to be a great camera, but it makes a huge difference. To give you an example, if I turn off this light right now, I'll just turn this light off, and immediately this looks very different. Okay, so you may still have a clear picture because the sensor is doing its thing, but just putting light onto your subject will make such a huge difference. And that is something that you can also share with your students. Tell them, put light onto your subject. Audio first, light second. Then start worrying about the camera. Then worry about the hardware you're using. Then worry about the laptop or the editing software. Now, once you have those things in place, then you can start thinking about tools. So we've got the hardware, software. We've got our planning, and then I'm going to give you some things that you can do next. So the hardware, anything will work. You have a phone, you can edit on your phone. If you have an iPad, you can use your iPad. If you have a Chromebook, you can use that Chromebook. There are Chrome extensions. I'll show you a couple of examples later that you can use to record your screen. But many of these also allow you to select the webcam. And therefore, you don't necessarily have to use a screencast or screen recording software for screen recording. You can use it to record yourself explaining a concept and then take that video and share it with your students. Now, in the chat, I did see that many are saying that short form, it's amazing. Absolutely. Break up your video. Break it up into small pieces of information, 5 minutes, 10 minutes max. And the great thing is that many of these applications and many of these extensions actually let you record up to 5 minutes. That's their free plan, or up to 10 minutes. It's the free plan. But you don't really need more than that, because once you get to half an hour, 40 minutes, it starts becoming a bit dull. And if that's what you're going for, then maybe you're better off doing a live stream. Maybe you're better off recording something that is being streamed live. If you want to have a tutorial video, then 5 to 10 minutes is perfect. And all these applications give you those 5 minutes with free accounts. Now, if your school has got a subscription, great, you can create longer videos. So I'm going to now jump onto a demo account, and I'm going to ask James in a minute if you could share that one. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to just demonstrate a couple of tools that I use, and then also how I use it. So I'm just going to stop sharing this presentation, and I'm going to share a different screen. So let me just find that. Here we go. And we have our let me just go back to the correct page here. And we have our demo account. If you could just pull that in, thank you. Oh, it was there. Yeah, there it is. Now, the first one I want to highlight is Flipgrid. Now, the reason I want to highlight Flipgrid is because they do give you up to 10 minutes. And they've recently added a couple of features that I think are incredibly powerful for teachers. So here I'm now going to jump into this demo account. Now, the first thing you need to do in order for you to be able to record a video is you have to create a group. Now, I've already created a demo group here. Now, the reason you create a group is because as you create that group, you will have to, first of all, name it. So I'm going to title this Demo 2, create that group. I will add members later. You can add your students to this. And now that I have this demo group, I can create a topic. So just create that group, create a topic. You can worry more about the information and the description of these groups later. But the topic is what you really want to have a look at, because once you set up a topic, that's where you also indicate how long you want your students or yourself to record for. So here I'm going to say demo topic 2. I'm going to add a description, and then you will see recording time. Now in Flipgrid, you can choose from 15 seconds, it's a little bit like TikTok videos, all the way up to 10 minutes. So I'm going to set this to 10 minutes. And again, as I mentioned before, 5 to 10 minutes, sort of that perfect sweet spot for little tutorials. And I can save this to my group. From now on, every member of this group is able to record a 10-minute video. So what they would do is they would then add a response to this demo topic. So you can see there are no responses at the moment. Now I'm going to just jump into my other demo. Here we go. And then you will see that I already have that demo topic. And when I click on that, I can go in here and we can start adding our first response. I'm going to add a response, so I'm going to click on that. And it pulls up the camera view. Now, hopefully this will work because obviously I am using the camera as well. So you will now see the camera view in Flipgrid. So you can see that here. Let me just double check and make sure everything is still clear. So you should now have a camera up there. And I think a camera down here. Can we just confirm that they're both working? Yeah, okay. So this camera right here is the built-in webcam. Now the features that I wanted to highlight are the effects and the backdrops. So once you start recording your video, you can change your backdrop into any of these virtual backgrounds. Now we've all seen this before, but the feature they've added is this one right here, where you can use your screen as a backdrop. And so I can use the actual documents that we're working on. I have a demo document up here. You can see that here, the lorem ipsum. I'm going to pull that document up as my background. So I'm going to click on this icon here. I'm going to select the correct tab and share that. Okay, so now it has pulled up my demo document as my virtual background. So that means that I can now resize myself and I can start creating that tutorial video. This is the talking head that we were talking about. And as soon as I click on record, this will start recording. So 3, 2, 1. And we are now recording our quick little tutorial. We see at the top how much time we have left. And we can also add in effects. So when we go to effects now, I can use this pen. I can start annotating on my screen. I have lots of other effects there. I don't just have this pen. I have text, filters. I can add a whiteboard. I can put stickers, GIFs or GIFs. All these things can be added. And then this ties in with what we talked about earlier about knowing your audience. Who is this video for? Is it more formal? Or do they actually enjoy seeing these little stickers pop up? Once you're happy with everything, you can even pause the video, prepare your next document, and then continue. Or you end it and you click on next. And we are now recording we get a little preview of our video. And here at the top, you will see that we can download this video. So you don't have to keep it on Flipgrid. You don't have to use Flipgrid at all to use it with your students. You can just use it to record your video, download that file, and then upload it to Google Drive, Google Classroom. Get it back into those products that your students are already using. So this way you can use a different platform to create video and then bring that video into the platforms that you're already using. This is great for students because we don't want to give them too many different platforms. If they are familiar with Google Classroom, if they know how that works, use Google Classroom to share your videos. It makes sense. So don't give them too many different platforms. Now, if you don't want to use Flipgrid, if you don't like it, don't know what you may not like about this, but there are many alternatives. Another one, Screencastify. You can see the extension here at the top. Screencastify, there's a 5-minute limit for the free version, but Screencastify can automatically send everything to Google Classroom. You can record your browser tab, your desktop, your webcam only. And again, you can use the webcam only. There's another one here, Loom. Loom is an excellent screen recorder. Loom, again, allows you to record screen and camera, screen only. anything you choose, Loom can record it. And if you are an educator, you can activate all the pro features for free forever. So Loom actually does upgrade your entire domain if you want to use that. Now, these three will work on Chromebooks. They work on Chromebooks, Windows, and Mac devices. Now, if you want to take it a little bit further and you want to add effects and special effects and you want to really up your game when it comes to video, you will notice here that the camera that's being pulled in looks very different in the bottom left. And that's because I use a program called Snap Camera. Now, Snap Camera is a little bit like what you would see on Snapchat, where you have all those filters with sort of ears added or long noses, or they make you look like a cat or a dog or anything you want it to be. Snap Camera lets you do that with your webcam. So it lets you bring all those features onto your computer, and then you can simply record yourself, your webcam feed, and then you have funny little videos that you can share, especially great for those younger learners. If you really want to push yourself, then I would investigate using OBS. Now, OBS Studio open broadcasting software is incredibly powerful. And just to demonstrate that, I am going to close Loom here. And I'm going to open up OBS. And then I am going to stop sharing the screen that I was sharing earlier. And I'm going to share my entire screen so that you can see OBS in action. So we're going to share screen, the entire screen. There we go. So you should now see OBS running. So if, James, if you see that, if you could pull that in, I'm just going to turn my camera off in StreamYard, which means that I can then use it in OBS. So I'm going to just pull this into OBS.
It's getting very complex, Sethi.
I know. This is for the advanced learners. So this is if you want to really push yourself. So OBS allows you to do anything you want when it comes to professional video. So you can add banners, you can switch scenes, and everything can be recorded by simply clicking on the button in the bottom right corner, Start Recording. So again, you have your different levels of complexity. You have screen recorders. You can record a video. You can record your screen, basic. Then you have Flipgrid. You can start adding effects, maybe some visual effects, backgrounds. Snap Camera, you're now completely changing the way you look. And then finally, if you are very comfortable with the technology, you know what you're doing, and now you really want to up your video creation, have a look at OBS Studio, download it, and play around with it. Don't expect this to work from day one. If this is the very first time you're using OBS, it will not work the way you want it to work. You'll have to put a little bit of time in. It's almost as if you're comparing Google Drawings with Photoshop. OBS is the Photoshop. Google Drawings, that is your Flipgrid. That is your Screencast. That is your Screencastify and your Loom recorders. I hope that that all makes a little bit of sense. I'm going to stop sharing this screen now. And I'm going to jump back into StreamYard. So hopefully I can get this camera to work again. Let me just quickly turn OBS off.
Whilst you're doing that, I think, Sethi, every solution, every software you mentioned today, they're all free, aren't they?
They are all free. So everything I've shown today is free. And that's why I wanted to show even OBS, which is an incredibly complex program to use. But if you want to push yourself, it is there. It's available on Mac, on Windows, and it's free. It's free. It has a very steep learning curve, a bit like Photoshop. Photoshop has a steep learning curve, but that doesn't stop anyone from playing around with it.
Not many years ago, I remember talking about this many times at the Google Summit. People would always ask, what can I use to create video? And there were not that many solutions out there which were accessible. And that has changed massively in the last few years.
And even
Definitely.
on Chromebooks now, you can do
Definitely. Because I remember before,
sorry,
before it was video, as soon as you said video, people were saying, okay, it has to be a MacBook or it has to be a Windows PC. But with Flipgrid, Loom, Screencastify, and many more, you can use the browser. You just install the extension and you have your browser, and you can pull in that webcam feed. And so now every single Chromebook can record. So every device can.
And I mean, obviously, Chromebooks have gotten more powerful over the years, but you can now green screen on a Chromebook with a free piece of software. I think that's pretty incredible where we are now. And
you don't need a green screen. So I do not have a green screen behind me, yet Flipgrid was pulling that feed in, green screening me out and putting my content behind me, even though I don't have a green screen behind me. I think that's amazing.
Agreed. Well, thank you very much, Sethi. We saw a few comments coming in, and I think you answered most of those anyway. Let's go. Hey, Veronica. Veronica's back.
Yes, I just wanted to say thanks, Sethi, because it was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us again.
Well, continuing with the video theme of today, the video creation theme of today, I think we're going to warmly welcome Bogdan back. And I think, Bogdan, you're going to be talking a little bit. Would you like to introduce what you're going to be talking about?
Sure. So one of the things that I had in mind was, okay, we've talked a bit about some ways in which we can use video in the classroom and how we use it as trainers and as teachers and different perspectives. We've moved into let's create videos for our students and for our trainings. Now I want to talk a bit about, okay, now that we have those videos, either the ones we've created or videos that we've taken from YouTube or from another source, how do we actually use them in the classroom with our students? How do we make the best use of them? How do we make sure that students watch them? How do we make sure that they get as much value as possible from the videos? And what are some of the different approaches? Because there are different pedagogical approaches when it comes to using videos. So you can talk about all kinds of models, from the flipped classroom model to different rotation station models, blended learning, and so on and so forth. And I think this is one of the most powerful components of using video, because they actually allow us to sort of clone ourselves. So rather than being one teacher talking to all of the students at the same time, we could record different videos and we could share some other videos that are recorded and created by others. And then multiple students can watch different bits of the explanation at the same time, at their own pace, and so on and so forth. And this is why I think it's really important to look at also how can we share videos with our students and how can we use them. So I wanted to give some quick tips just when it comes to using them in classroom or using Google Classroom or Google Docs or Google Slides, but also to look at third-party tools. And in this case, Edpuzzle, which is an awesome platform that is built with this idea in mind, adding extra elements on top of the videos.
Thanks, Bogdan. We'll let you begin in a moment. This is pretty exciting, really, because typically we imagine that video is very passive. You sit back and you watch video, but that's not the case, is it, Bogdan, with this? Ideally that should never be the case. So it also falls onto us as educators to use the video in the right way at the right time for the right purpose. At the end of the day, it's just a tool we have in our toolbox as educators. And the main goal should still be on the learning goal. What am I trying to achieve? What's the final learning goal? And what role does the video play in this? This comes next. So then I decide if I want to create a video or if I want to use one that's already created, if I want to use the flipped learning approach, or if I want to use the video in the classroom for those students that need extension material while I work with another group of students in the other corner and I help them catch up, for example. So this gives a lot of flexibility. And once again, it's just the idea is to look at what's the final learning goal and how can we use video and other tools to help us achieve that learning goal. So, sorry, please, James. I was just going to say, yeah, please. I'll let you carry on, Bogdan. I'll get out of the way.
Okay. So there isn't that much on the actual slides. We've done the intro as well, but I just wanted to have this sort of as a general silver lining of this bit, because I actually want to focus more on the demos and see how things would actually look like in practice. So of course, there are different ways in which we can actually share videos with our students. And we've touched a bit upon this earlier. We have different services like YouTube or Vimeo or other services. And I want to clarify this because I've seen quite a lot of confusion in teacher groups on Facebook and on Twitter. Yes, students cannot create, or they cannot upload videos, or they cannot create YouTube channels anymore, or not students, anybody who's under 18 on a Google Workspace for Education account. But that doesn't mean that YouTube is blocked altogether. So you can still use videos that are already on YouTube. You can still share them with the students. Granted, of course, your school domain allows you to do that. So this is where there isn't a general universal recipe. Many schools, different schools will have different settings for their domains, and some schools just choose to block YouTube altogether. So double check that with your own domain. Then we've already mentioned Google Drive as an alternative. Remember that Drive can host all kinds of files, including video files, and we can easily share them from there. Of course, we could attach videos directly in Google Classroom to different assignments, or we could embed them in slides or in Google Sites. And this is one of the things that I want to quickly demo a bit, this bit with the embedding and also leveraging the preview option in docs and slides. So this is just one of those small tips that I hope will be helpful. So I'll jump quickly in my classroom interface. So if I want to add, let's say, a YouTube video about the water cycle, because I was teaching science, so I chose a science video, I could just attach it as a YouTube link directly to my assignment, give my instructions, add a document, ask students different questions in the document. Now, this is where talking about making the video engaging and making sure that students have the proper setup so they can focus on their task. There's a much better way of doing this. So this is one of my workarounds, right? Or one example. Rather than sharing the video as a YouTube link directly, just put it in a Google slide. So just create a new slide, put the video in, embed it. And then in the Google Doc, where I have my questions or where I have the instructions or anything I want to share with my students, what I'm doing is I'm actually linking that slide. And here with one click, I can actually open the preview. And this is a quick and easy way to actually have students watch the video while they are on the document, and they could actually answer the questions while they are actually going to the video. So this is one of those quick tips that basically makes students' lives easier, and therefore our lives easier, because we know that there's a higher chance for them to actually pay attention to the video while they go and work to the document. Now, this is once again just one of those small tips. Another tip is, and this is something that we had in the chat earlier. So let's say you have a long video and you want to break it down into smaller segments. So what you could do here is, let me just copy this slide. So we'll have the same video on multiple slides. But now what I can do is, in the actual Google Slides, under Format Options, I could choose a start time and I could choose an end time. So even if, let's say, my video is 8 minutes long, I could skip the beginning. I would say, okay, play the video from 10 seconds to 2 minutes and 14. And that's it. So right now, when my students would actually watch the video, so in the presentation, for example, there will be only that small segment of the video played from 0:10. You've seen that it started at 0:10, and it will end at the time I chose as the endpoint. How would this be helpful for us? Once again, if I have a long video and I want to break it down into segments, I can put the same video on different slides, put those time intervals, and then in between, I can add some slides with some questions. And I would ask, okay, question 1, question 2, and these questions could be related to the video that we've just, that segment of the video that they've just watched. So this is something we can do with what we have in the Google Workspace already, no extra tool needed, pretty straightforward. And once again, as I said, these were just some quick tips. Now, there's also the option of using third-party tools. So Sethi was mentioning Flipgrid, for example. That definitely is not a Google tool. It's a third-party tool. But once again, the main idea is how we use all of these tools together, even in conjunction with Google Classroom or the Google Workspace. And at the end of the day, what is the main focus? the learning objective and how we actually reach that objective. So just quickly, I want to introduce Edpuzzle and show you how it could be used for this as well. I've seen also that there are some Edpuzzle users in the audience, which is great. It's awesome. So what can we actually do with Edpuzzle? In a nutshell, we start from a video. We take that video either from YouTube, or we could record our own video. Now that we have the tools and the knowledge for doing that after Sethi's session, we could record our own videos. And once again, remember that you can start small. You can start with recording your desktop while you explain something, or recording yourself while you explain or show the solution for a mathematical question on paper. As Sethi said it earlier, use your phone, record yourself while you're literally balancing some chemical equations, and use that video as a starting point for the instruction material. So you don't have to jump straight to OBS. You can take it from the beginning. So what do I do next with the video? I can embed assessment questions on top of it, and I can track my students' progress. And this is great. The tracking of my students' progress is awesome because it gives me data. It also makes my students accountable. But once again, I wanted to show you how it works, so you get an idea of what we can actually do and how it would work with my students. Now, let me use the same video. Actually, I think I did not save the link. So let me use the same video. So we'll be looking at the video. We'll use the same video just for consistency, right? So we'll start with the same video, the same approach. I'll do that in Edpuzzle instead. So rather than doing it through slides and going through all of those steps, I'll show you how that would work in Edpuzzle. So one of the good things about Edpuzzle is that it integrates with the Google Workspace, so you can log in with your Google account. You don't have to worry about that, and your students could log in with their Google account. And it also syncs with Google Classroom. So if I would want to add a new class of students, for example, I can just sync it with Google Classroom and other platforms as well. But in this case, of course, our focus is on Google Classroom. And this will automatically pull all of your students from your classes. Now, this is just the entry point. Then what can I do in Edpuzzle? Once again, let's start with the video I've just shown you, the water cycle. And I will actually start by adding content. So I could start from a video that's already existing. I could upload a video. I could record my own video. And by the way, with the Edpuzzle extension, you can record videos directly in Edpuzzle, or I could start a new project. So let me start by discovering a new video. And I could search through the Edpuzzle community. So these are videos already created by other educators. I could see videos that were created in my school. So if lots of teachers in a school use Edpuzzle, the videos can be reused within the school community. Or I could just go to YouTube and search for something directly from here. Now, because I've already started with the video, I could also, and I have the Edpuzzle extension, I could also use the extension and start editing directly from YouTube. Or I can just paste the link here, and this should bring the video in the Edpuzzle editing interface. Now, what can I do here? First of all, I can cut the video. So what I was doing earlier in the slides by adding the start time and ending time, here I can do it directly in Edpuzzle. And if I want to add a cut also in the middle, we can do that. And I can choose to play only certain parts of the video. Now, the next bit, once I'm done and I'm happy with the cuts and I'm happy with the length of the video, the next bit, I can play with the voiceover, but this only works on our videos. If I take a video from YouTube, this will not work. And then we get to the juicy part. This is where we have the questions, and this is where the tool is so powerful, because we can embed our own assessment questions on top of the video. So we could have multiple choice questions or checkbox questions similar to what we have in Google Forms. We could have open-ended questions. We could have notes. So I could start the video with a note, and I could just tell my students, hey, this video is about the water cycle, and we'll be introducing several key topics. I could also leave a voice note. And it's always a good idea to give an intro for the video so your students know what is going to happen. So I can record a quick voice note and I say, hey, this is a video about the water cycle. Please pay attention to the key ideas in the video. We'll have a quick quiz at the end. Something like that, right? So this is the voice note. I can also, of course, also type. I don't have to add it as the voice note. This will be added on top of the video at the very beginning. And what you'll notice is that, sorry, my bad. I've placed it at the very end because I was at the end. This is where you'll see the elements. They are shown as a small droplet. Then I can go to the video and say at 19 seconds, I want to add a multiple choice question. So I would ask something like, what is, or how do you call, guess just water, right? And I can give some options, just like in Google Forms. Once again, multiple choice assessment, multiple choice questions. So I can call it, I can say vapor, ice, and I don't know, frozen, whatever other options I want to give. Same idea like before. I can mark the correct answer. So it will automatically grade the submissions from my students. And I can also add feedback if I want to. So just like in Google Forms where you can add feedback, you could also add feedback here for your answers, for your students' answers, if they get it right or wrong. Of course, you can also use the mathematical, the equations editor, or you could insert images, or you could insert links. You have all of these options. I'll save this, and you'll notice a second element showing up here. And this is how students will see this on their videos. Continue. Let's say here I want to add an open-ended question, and I will just say something like, describe the role plants play in the water cycle. So in this case, obviously, I will not be able to automatically grade it because this is something I would need to read as a teacher and manually grade this. But this is where students can type in their answers, or I can allow audio responses for them as well. And in that case, rather than typing their answers, they could record them. And this works great, for example, for younger kids or for kids that struggle with typing for whatever reason, or if they are working on a small device and they don't have a keyboard, for example. There are different scenarios where recording an answer could be more helpful. Continue, and that's it. So we can add as many of these elements as you want. We can move them around on the video. And when we are done, of course, at the end, I could also add one more end note and tell my students what I want them to do next. When I'm done, let's say this is it, because I just wanted to quickly demonstrate the different question types. I will say finish. And now this video is ready to share. So I can actually assign it to my students. I can just go to the assign button and I choose which classroom I want to share it with. So I'll use my demo class for science. And as you see, this is how I know that this is a Google Classroom. And I have a couple of options. I do have a start date. I have a due date, so I could add the due date, which will be also synced with the Google Classroom. Sorry, let's do that. Let's do that. And then I have a couple of extra options. I can prevent skipping, which means what? Students cannot move through the video. They actually have to play the video. And if they change, let's say, the tab, so they cannot just have the video running in the background. They have to actually be running the video on the active tab. I decide if I want to do that or not. In most cases, I think this is useful. But remember, try to keep the videos shorter in that case, so they don't have to stay stuck and glued to the screen for half an hour, right? I can also, of course, use closed captions if I need to, and I can also post this on Google Classroom directly. So with one button, I've assigned this to my Google Classroom, and this is what will happen in the next steps. So my students, let me bring one of my students on screen. So this is my student Cleopatra. She's part of the demo class. And the assignment should be shared with the class. So now I see the assignment here, Edpuzzle, the water cycle. And as you see, click on it, Cleopatra gets access to the video. the students can watch the video, and whenever they reach the different elements, this is where they can listen to my voice note. And as you see, it's locked, so they cannot skip the voice note either. And it's the same idea with the video. They cannot skip the video. The video plays the moment it reaches the first element or the first question. Students have to answer it, and then they can move on to the next bit. So as you see, I cannot skip different. I cannot go for faster to the video. I have to actually watch it, and then I can choose the answer the question, and then I can continue. If for whatever reason I did not understand something as a student, I can always go back and rewatch that segment of the video. And this is once again very powerful. This is one of the powerful things when it comes to using video. When the teacher explains something in person, you cannot rewind. As Sethi said, that's gone. You cannot rewind. With video, you can do that. And in Edpuzzle, you also have the rewind button, and it actually takes you back, and it shows you that segment of the video. Now, let me show you another example. So I will not go through the whole video. It's the same story. Students answer the questions. What I want to show you instead is the analytics that we get in Edpuzzle. So this is where it's really powerful for us as teachers. I can see more or less how much of the video my student watched. I see when they watched it the last time. I see if they've turned it in. And if there's a grade, an automatic a question that can be graded, it will be graded automatically. So to show you how this looks like for another assignment, right? So one that was already graded, and I want to show you how this would look like for an assignment. These are some of the statistics we get. We see how much of the video the students watched, which is already good information for me, rather than just sharing the video and having no idea if they've watched the video or not. I see the grade. I see if there's anything that needs to be graded manually. And I also see, for example, let's use Cleopatra as an example here again. I also see which parts of the video they watched again. So especially if I have students that are struggling and I'm offering them a video to just help them catch up or help them understand the topic better, this is very valuable insight for me, because I see which parts of the video they rewatched multiple times. And then that helps me identify where I need to spend more time during the next lesson, or what type of materials I can provide them with to actually help them. And once again, I see all of their questions and the answers. I see this is, for example, one question that I had to grade manually. So this is something that I've graded manually, and I can also leave a comment. So of course we can give extra feedback for their answers. And in a nutshell, this is the sort of the basic intro to Edpuzzle and what we can do in Edpuzzle. But remember, this is just a quick intro. There are many other things we can do, including recording videos directly. So as Sethi said, we can actually record videos directly. Now we can record our tab or the desktop or the camera only. So once again, if I'm teaching chemical equations and balancing chemical equations, I could do that recording my desktop while I work on a Jamboard, for example. And I could just explain the process, show my thinking, record that, and then put the video in Edpuzzle directly and add questions, assessment questions on top. I could also change the tables and create a student project where actually what I will be doing is, rather than providing students with a video, I will tell them, hey, find a suitable video and add your comments on the video, or your assessment questions, or your voice notes on the video. And I can use this also as a form of assessment. So let's say I'm asking them to find a video about their favorite ecosystem, to keep things in the same science background. I can ask them to find a video about their favorite ecosystem and to add at least 5 notes on the video showing what they've learned about that ecosystem, or on the contrary, not what they've learned, but I could ask them to add some extension material, some extra bits and pieces of information that is not already presented in the video. So this is where I will see how much they've worked on their research, how good they are at getting information from other sources and putting it together on top of a video. So this is one other way of using video. I gave the example earlier when students were creating their own videos. In this case, they would start from an already existing videos, and they would just add that extra layer of questions or information, voice notes, extra resources, and so on and so forth. So this is also another way of actually working with this. And then, as I said earlier, because it is integrated with Google Classroom, you do have a gradebook. So this will be very useful. It could be synced. So if you grade everything, you'll be able to sync it as well. And also remember what I said earlier about the school. So if you have multiple teachers in the school, the good part is that you can actually reuse the videos. So if one of my science colleagues creates a video, I could also reuse it later because it will be shared within the community. And that also makes things easier for collaborating, because we could decide if we have 2 or 3 chemistry teachers, we could split the different units, and I would take 3 units, my colleague would take 3 other units. We would prepare videos that we could then reuse and share in between us. So these are just some ideas for using Edpuzzle. I hope you got some inspiration for this in terms of using video in the classroom for more than just sharing it with your students. And of course, Edpuzzle is not the only tool, but I think it's a tool that can save us a lot of time and gives us a lot of valuable information through the analytics and the things that I've just barely touched the surface now. So I know that Sethi also had actually some really good tutorials for Edpuzzle as well. And I've seen some of the participants in the chat mentioning Edpuzzle and that you're using it. So I'm happy to see that.
And you mentioned it as well, Bogdan, analytics. Yeah, the analytics behind the use of Edpuzzle, the video or the contribution students are making. Yeah.
And this is a big thing also, talking about the ISTA certification that you've mentioned at the beginning. So this is a big topic also in the ISTA certification and in general for us as educators. So one of the ISTA standards looks at data analysis, so analyst standard, where you really need to use the data you have in order to change your future instruction and to adapt it to your students' needs. And this is one great way to actually get information or collect that data when we use videos with our students. So that was a shameless ISTA plug. It is a program that actually is worth it. So I would encourage you to have a look at it as well.
And yeah, just to tie that all up, Bogdan is one of our amazing ISTE trainers. We currently have Bogdan and Kim, who's not here obviously at the moment, but they partner up together and deliver some amazing ISTE trainings. I'll take that opportunity. If anybody's interested about ISTE, do reach out and we can chat about what that involves. Back to your session, Bogdan. Thank you. That was an awesome walkthrough.
As I said, it was really rushed, but I do encourage you to have a look at it if you want. They have loads of resources as well on the website.
Sethi, I know you're familiar with Edpuzzle, of course. What's the best use you've seen of Edpuzzle, or wherever you found it particularly beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, Bogdan really covered everything I just love about it. The analytics, that's the key. If we want to make a reference to, for example, YouTube as well, because we're talking about video creation in general, what YouTube gives you as a video creator in terms of analytics, who's watching, when they watch, how long they watch for. Edpuzzle does that for your students. So whenever you're working with video, you can actually see, are they watching this? How long are they watching this for? And if they have questions, those audio responses, which is a fairly recent addition to Edpuzzle, they are so incredibly powerful because many of our students, they won't respond typing it out, but they don't mind just quickly recording a little voice note and then leaving it. So yeah, I think Edpuzzle has that spot there where it is such a great tool. I started using it a long time ago as a tool to really flip the learning and to flip that classroom. I recorded a video, had to upload it to YouTube, pull it into it. Now it's all in one. You've got the extension, you record your screencast, and it's automatically uploaded to Edpuzzle, and you push it out to your students. Done. So excellent demo. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bogdan.
Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you, Sethi. Veronica, welcome back.
Yes, thank you, Sethi. Thank you, Bogdan. So I would like to also mention like a last words before we finish this great summit. So please feel free to subscribe, watch, like, and share our videos, our podcast. And that reminds me also, please push like button just under the video. You can see. Thank you. That would help.
Smash the like button. Okay.
Yes. Also,
And if the subscribe button is red, you're doing something wrong. So you have to click on it. It should not be red.
also, thanks to Acer again, our great partner. We are able to run these summits for free thanks to our great partnership. Again, just a quick reminder, if you are interested in Google Workspace for Education Plus, feel free to contact us. We are more than happy to set up the trial for you. It's really easy and useful for you. Also, feel free to use our social media channels. And again, it's the certification, but James already mentioned and highlighted our great trainers, Bogdan and Kim. So you can see our our upcoming cohorts. So have a look and register for that. The last and really important highlight, I think, James, you can highlight it. You can add more details about this conference.
Yeah, the Connected School Conference. We've got actually a big announcement coming very shortly, so we're going to save it for that. But it's a very exciting new event. Obviously, we've been running Google Summits for many years now, and Google Bootcamps. We're broadening what we are delivering through our events. It's very exciting. We're going to be bringing a lot more different types of sessions together, and it's really about the networking component to it. A big announcement coming soon.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you for your really nice comments, everyone. Thank you for watching us. We are really pleased for your interest. We hope you join us for the next one and the next one and the next one. So thank you. It's going to be great. Some interesting topic for you and the content. So thanks again. Have a great day and see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.